As the transport ship hurtled towards the ground, a realization struck the Sentinels. The ship was carrying a significant amount of ammunition, and the impact was likely to cause a massive explosion. Their only hope was to jump out of the transport before it crashed and land far enough away to avoid the blast. For the Sentinels, this would be a relatively simple task. Their enhanced bodies were built to withstand great falls and impacts. However, Kazuki, being a mere human, would not be able to survive the jump without their help. Lily, taking charge, quickly devised a plan. Sophia, Sarah, prepare to jump with the commander. Hana, Gabriella, help the crew evacuate if possible. We're going to use our bodies to cushion his fall, but it's going to be risky. The Sentinels moved into action, working together to give everyone the best chance of survival. Sophia and Sarah carefully positioned themselves around Kazuki, who was still unconscious, and prepared to jump from the doomed transport. They knew that by shielding him with their bodies, they would take damage that could have been avoided if they had simply abandoned him. But that was not an option. They were determined to protect their commander, no matter the cost. With seconds to spare, Sophia and Sarah leaped from the transport with Kazuki held securely between them. They aimed for a patch of relatively soft ground in the distance, hoping that their enhanced bodies would be enough to shield him from the worst of the impact. As they hit the ground, the Sentinels absorbed the brunt of the force, their bodies taking the damage in order to protect their human commander. Sophia and Sarah's reinforced frames bore the brunt of the impact, leaving them with significant damage. Sophia had a deep gash on her leg, the synthetic muscle fibers exposed and leaking fluid, while Sarah had a dislocated shoulder and several cracked ribs. Furthermore, the impact had caused internal damage to their systems, limiting their mobility and overall combat effectiveness. Lily, Hana, and Gabriella also made the jump, each suffering from minor scrapes and bruises but faring better than their more heavily damaged teammates. As they landed, they quickly assessed their surroundings, weapons at the ready, scanning for any potential threats. Behind them, the transport ship crashed into the earth, the resulting explosion shaking the ground beneath them. The blast sent a shockwave through the air, pelting the team with debris and dirt. Bruised, battered, but alive, the Sentinels carefully checked on Kazuki. He had survived the jump, but not without injury. His left arm was broken, and he had a fractured leg that would make it difficult for him to move quickly. Additionally, he had cuts and bruises all over his body from the debris that had struck him during the explosion. Despite his injuries, Kazuki was still breathing, and his pulse was steady, a testament to the Sentinels' efforts to protect him. As Kazuki began to regain consciousness, the Sentinels knew they needed to act quickly. They needed to secure the area, assess the extent of their own injuries, and determine why they had been shot down. With Lily taking charge, the team began to establish a perimeter and attend to their wounds, all while keeping a watchful eye on their surroundings. Hindered by their injuries and with Kazuki's mobility severely limited, the team faced a daunting challenge ahead. Unbeknownst to them, this was just the beginning of a much larger ordeal, and the true mission had only just begun. Kazuki, witnessing the extent of the Sentinels' injuries, insisted on a change of plans. "Gabriella, I want you to treat the Sentinels first," he said firmly. "They're more valuable than me in combat, and we can't afford to have them at less than their best." The Sentinels exchanged uncertain glances, clearly conflicted by his order. It went against protocol. Their primary objective was to protect and prioritize the well-being of their human commander. To receive an order like this was rare, and it left them unsure of how to proceed. "Sir," Sophia hesitated, "our protocol dictates that your safety and well-being come first. We appreciate your concern, but we must prioritize your treatment." Kazuki's expression remained resolute. "I understand that, but as your commander, I'm ordering you to let Gabriella treat your injuries first. We need all of you at your best if we're going to survive this." The Sentinels looked at one another, the weight of their commander's words sinking in. Though it went against everything they'd been trained to do, they couldn't disobey a direct order from Kazuki. Reluctantly, they agreed to let Gabriella tend to their injuries before his. Gabriella, while limited in what she could do without a proper medbay, did her best to patch up the Sentinels. She stopped any bleeding and sealed leaks in their advanced systems, making sure they were stable enough to continue the mission. Once Gabriella had done all she could for the Sentinels, she turned her attention to Kazuki. She quickly set his broken arm in a makeshift splint and immobilized his fractured leg, administering painkillers and nanobots to help manage his pain and promote healing. Once Gabriella had done all she could for the Sentinels, she turned her attention to Kazuki. She quickly set his broken arm in a makeshift splint and immobilized his fractured leg, administering painkillers and nanobots to help manage his pain and promote healing. As Kazuki struggled to his feet, leaning on Gabriella for support, Sophia approached him. She hesitated for a moment, then reached out to help steady him. Hana, who had been observing from a distance, walked over and offered Kazuki a firm pat on the shoulder. Sarah, still a bit distant, watched the interactions closely, but her gaze lingered on Kazuki for a moment longer than usual. With everyone's injuries addressed to the best of Gabriella's abilities, the squad set out to secure the area and investigate the cause of their attack. They knew they had to stay alert for any Zetorian scouts or patrols, as well as the possibility of encountering hostile wildlife in the unfamiliar terrain. The loss of their transport ship also meant they were cut off from their usual support and resources, so self-reliance was crucial. The team moved in a diamond formation, with Sophia taking point, her weapon at the ready. Hana and Sarah flanked her on either side, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of movement or danger. Gabriella supported Kazuki in the center, ensuring he was able to keep up with the group despite his injuries. Bringing up the rear was Lily, her advanced sensors constantly monitoring the area to detect any potential threats. Their plan was to find a defensible position where they could set up a temporary base. From there, they would try to gather intelligence on the cause of their attack, as well as locate a secure route to the nearest starborn base. With each step, the squad moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they navigated the treacherous environment, determined to complete their mission and protect their commander. As the squad pushed forward, they found themselves navigating through a dense jungle. The air was thick with humidity, and the sounds of exotic creatures filled the air, creating an almost disorienting cacophony. The lush foliage provided both a source of cover and an obstacle to overcome. The squad had to be mindful of their surroundings as they made their way through the tangled undergrowth. The jungle floor was damp, the ground occasionally giving way to patches of mud that threatened to slow their progress. The towering trees blocked out much of the sunlight, casting the entire area in an eerie, dim light. The heat was stifling, and beads of sweat formed on Kazuki's brow as he limped along, relying on Gabriella for support. Despite the challenging conditions, the Sentinels moved with a level of grace and efficiency that spoke to their extensive training. They expertly navigated the treacherous terrain, carefully clearing a path for their commander to follow. The dense foliage also provided ample opportunities for ambushes, and the squad was constantly on guard, their senses heightened and their weapons at the ready. They knew that the Zetorians were masters of stealth, and even the smallest oversight could have dire consequences for the team. As they made their way deeper into the jungle, Kazuki couldn't help but marvel at the resilience and adaptability of his squad. The Sentinels had been designed to excel in any environment, and it was clear that they were living up to their reputation. As the squad continued to move through the jungle, Sophia took the lead, her keen eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger or possible threats. Hana and Sarah flanked her, their weapons at the ready, while Gabriella stayed close to Kazuki, keeping a watchful eye on his progress. The wildlife seemed to grow more aggressive the deeper they ventured, with the buzzing of insects and the distant growls of unseen predators keeping the team on edge. At one point, Sophia halted their advance, signaling for everyone to take cover. A large, snake-like creature slithered past their hiding spot, its skin shimmering with iridescent colors. After it had disappeared into the undergrowth, Sophia gave the all-clear, and they continued their cautious trek. As the hours passed, the team began to notice signs that they were not alone. The ground beneath their feet showed signs of recent disturbance, and the occasional snapped branch or trampled plant hinted that someone or something had passed through the area not long before. It was Hana who eventually spotted the first evidence of their attackers. Crouching low, she gestured for the others to join her as she examined a series of strange, almost organic-looking tracks left in the mud. The Sentinels recognized them as the telltale markings of Zatorian foot soldiers. Their suspicions were confirmed. They were being hunted. With renewed urgency, the squad pushed onward, knowing that they needed to find the source of the attack and eliminate it before they could safely call for extraction. As they moved, they continued to find more signs of the Zatorian presence, each piece of evidence serving as a chilling reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond their line of sight. The jungle seemed to close in around them, the oppressive heat and humidity only adding to the tension that hung in the air. Kazuki couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, but he trusted his team to keep him and the others safe. The Sentinels were the best of the best, and they would face whatever dangers lay ahead together, as a united force. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the jungle floor, the team knew they had to find a suitable location to set up a temporary camp. The darkness would only make the situation more dangerous, and it was crucial that they were able to rest and regroup before continuing their mission. Sophia suggested a small clearing up ahead, which provided enough visibility for the team to keep an eye on their surroundings. The Sentinels worked efficiently to secure the area, setting up a perimeter and camouflaging their position from any potential adversaries. Kazuki, despite the throbbing pain in his injured leg, tried to assist in setting up the camp. He hobbled alongside Sophia, helping her gather branches and foliage to create makeshift camouflage for their position. He grimaced as he bent down, picking up a heavy log to construct a small bench for the team to rest on. Gabriella, noticing Kazuki's struggle, approached him and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Commander, you need to rest and allow your leg to heal as much as possible. We can handle setting up the camp," she said, her tone gentle yet insistent. Kazuki looked into her eyes, which held a mixture of concern and determination, and reluctantly agreed. Kazuki took a seat on the makeshift log bench they had created, watching as the Sentinels efficiently went about their duties. Each team member seemed to have a specific role, working together seamlessly to establish their temporary base. Kazuki couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in his squad, even though they had only been together for a short time. As the darkness enveloped the jungle, the sounds of the night came alive. The distant cries of unknown creatures echoed through the trees, creating an eerie soundtrack to their predicament. Insects buzzed and chirped all around them, adding to the cacophony of noises that filled the humid air. The oppressive humidity clung to Kazuki's skin, making sleep difficult for the human commander. Despite his exhaustion, Kazuki found himself unable to drift off, his mind racing with thoughts of the mission and the challenges they had faced so far. The Sentinels, on the other hand, seemed to adapt effortlessly to the environment, their advanced systems allowing them to rest and recharge without issue. As the night wore on, Kazuki's eyelids grew heavy, but sleep remained elusive, the jungle's cacophony a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked within its depths. As the first light of dawn crept through the dense jungle canopy, Kazuki finally managed to drift into a restless slumber. The Sentinels, having completed their tasks and taken turns keeping watch, began to stir as well. Sophia, who had been scanning the area with her enhanced vision during the last watch, approached Kazuki and gently shook him awake. "Commander, it's time to get moving," she said softly, her voice cutting through the lingering haze of sleep. Kazuki groggily opened his eyes, wincing as the pain in his leg made itself known once more. He nodded and attempted to stand, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch that Hana had fashioned for him from a sturdy branch. The team gathered around their commander, ready to press on with their mission. They knew they needed to find out who had shot them down and why, as well as re-establish communications with their base. As they continued their trek through the jungle, the team moved cautiously, maintaining a tight formation with Kazuki at the center. Sophia led the way, her keen senses alert for any signs of danger, while Hana and Sarah flanked their commander, ready to protect him at a moment's notice. Gabriella brought up the rear, her medical equipment at the ready in case any of them required further treatment. The dense foliage and tangled vines made their progress slow and arduous, each step requiring careful planning and execution to avoid tripping or becoming entangled. The heat and humidity seemed to grow more oppressive as the day wore on, sweat beading on Kazuki's forehead and soaking through his clothing. Despite the challenges, the team pressed on, determined to complete their mission and return to the safety of their base. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the Sentinels continued to display their unwavering loyalty and dedication to their commander. They took turns supporting Kazuki when his leg threatened to buckle under the strain, and offered quiet words of encouragement as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The sun had climbed high in the sky when the team finally stumbled upon a clue to their attacker's identity. Nestled within a small clearing, partially hidden by overgrown vegetation, the Sentinels discovered the charred remains of what appeared to be a Zatorian drone. The metallic carcass, still smoldering from the blast that had taken it down, provided a grim reminder of the ever-present danger they faced. Sophia crouched down to examine the wreckage more closely, her fingers expertly tracing the drone's scorched surface as she searched for any useful information. "This looks like it could be the drone that attacked us," she reported, her voice carrying a hint of concern. "It's definitely Zatorian tech." Kazuki's brow furrowed at the news. The fact that Zatorian forces were operating in the area meant that their mission had just become far more dangerous. They would need to tread even more carefully, knowing that an enemy force was likely watching their every move. The Sentinels exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier camaraderie momentarily shaken by the discovery. However, they quickly regained their composure, falling back into formation as they continued their search for answers. As the day wore on, the oppressive heat and difficult terrain took their toll on the team, especially on Kazuki and the injured Sentinels. They were forced to take several breaks to rest and tend to their wounds, but each time they pressed on with renewed determination. During one such break, as the team gathered around a small stream to refill their canteens and wash the sweat and grime from their faces, Kazuki couldn't help but marvel at the strength and resilience of his squad. He felt a surge of pride and gratitude for their unwavering loyalty, despite the difficult circumstances they faced. With renewed vigor, the team set off once again, following the stream deeper into the jungle in the hopes that it would lead them closer to the source of their attackers. As they navigated the dense undergrowth, Hana's keen eyes spotted something unusual up ahead, a faint trail of smoke rising into the air. Inching closer, the team soon discovered the source of the smoke, a small, hidden Zatorian camp, tucked away within the foliage. It was clear that the camp had been hastily abandoned, likely after the drone had been taken down. The discovery of the Zatorian camp raised the stakes even higher. The Sentinels, under Kazuki's command, knew they had to proceed with even greater caution. They were now deep within enemy territory, and the possibility of an ambush or another surprise attack was very real. Sophia took the lead, her sentinel senses on high alert as they approached the deserted camp. She silently signaled for the rest of the team to fan out, each member taking up a position around the perimeter to ensure they wouldn't be caught off guard. As they investigated the camp, they discovered evidence that the Zatorians had been monitoring their movements from the very beginning. Maps and surveillance images scattered about the makeshift command center revealed that their presence in the region was no accident. They had been specifically targeted. A sense of unease settled over the team, but they couldn't afford to dwell on the implications of their discovery. They had a mission to complete, and they couldn't allow themselves to be deterred by the enemy's machinations. Kazuki, leaning on a makeshift crutch to take some of the weight off his injured leg, scanned the camp with a critical eye. "We need to find out why they're here and what they are planning," he told his squad, his voice firm and resolute. "We can't let them get the upper hand." As they searched the camp, they uncovered a trove of valuable intelligence, encrypted communications, supply manifests, and more. Among the documents, they found evidence of a larger Zatorian operation in the area, one that threatened not only their own mission but also the safety of the entire region. With this newfound knowledge, the team's mission took on a new urgency. They needed to put a stop to the Zatorian threat before it could escalate any further, and they couldn't afford to waste any time. Kazuki gathered his squad together, determination etched on his face. "We need to stop them," he declared, his voice ringing with conviction. "We'll use this intel to devise a plan and take them down before they can cause any more damage." The Sentinels nodded in agreement, their resolve strengthened by their commander's unwavering commitment. Together, they set to work, using the information they had gathered to devise a plan to dismantle the Zatorian operation and put an end to the danger it posed. As the team huddled around the makeshift command center in the deserted Zatorian camp, they pored over the intelligence they had gathered. Each of them brought their unique skills and perspectives to the table as they pieced together a comprehensive picture of the enemy's plans and intentions. Lily, with her keen analytical mind, took the lead in deciphering the encrypted communications. Her fingers flew over a portable decryption device she had brought along, and within minutes, she had managed to crack the Zatorian codes. The decoded messages revealed that the enemy was preparing to launch a devastating assault on a nearby human settlement, one that would result in massive casualties if it went unchallenged. Kazuki's eyes narrowed as he read the chilling details. "We have to stop them," he reiterated, his voice hard with determination. "We can't let them carry out this attack." Hana, the team's expert marksman, examined the supply manifests and quickly identified the enemy's key ammunition depots and weapon caches. With her guidance, the team formulated a plan to sabotage the Zatorians' arsenal, crippling their ability to launch the assault. Sarah, ever the strategist, mapped out a careful approach to the enemy's key installations. Her plan took into account the terrain, the enemy's likely defenses, and the Sentinels' individual strengths, ensuring that they would have the element of surprise on their side. With their plan in place, the team set out under the cover of darkness. The dense jungle provided them with ample cover, and they moved silently, each sentinel acutely aware of the importance of their mission. As they neared the first target, a heavily fortified ammunition depot, Sophia signaled for the team to halt. She pointed out the sentries patrolling the perimeter and the concealed security cameras that monitored the area. The Sentinels would have to act with precision and stealth to avoid detection. Kazuki nodded, giving the order to proceed. He knew the stakes were high, and the lives of countless innocent civilians hung in the balance. With a newfound sense of purpose and determination, he and his squad prepared to strike against the Zetorian threat and protect the people they had sworn to serve. Hana carefully navigated the jungle canopy, her agility and keen eye for detail allowing her to effortlessly traverse the complex network of branches and vines. She spotted a large tree with thick branches that provided an unobstructed view of the ammunition depot, and she swiftly climbed it, finding a sturdy branch that could support her weight. Settling into a concealed position, she scanned the area, her sniper rifle at the ready. From her vantage point, she could see the layout of the depot clearly, a large central building surrounded by a few smaller structures, all enclosed by a tall, electrified fence. There were 2 main gates, each guarded by a pair of Zetorian soldiers armed with energy rifles. She noted that the depot was also equipped with several automated turrets, strategically placed to cover any potential blind spots. Hana observed the patrol routes of the enemy soldiers, noticing that they moved in groups of 3, each group covering a specific section of the perimeter. Their movements were synchronized and disciplined, leaving little room for error. As Hana relayed this information back to Kazuki and the others, she also informed them of the surveillance equipment she had spotted. There were several motion sensors placed throughout the area, as well as a handful of surveillance cameras positioned to monitor the gates and the depot's main entrance. To bypass the motion sensors, Hana suggested that they could crawl slowly and low to the ground, minimizing the chances of being detected. For the cameras, she recommended that they avoid the main entrance altogether and find an alternative point of entry. After carefully analyzing the information provided by Hana, Kazuki gathered the team to discuss their plan of action. They needed a strategy that would allow them to infiltrate the depot undetected, neutralize the enemy forces, and destroy the jamming equipment without alerting reinforcements. Plan A: Frontal Assault. The first plan involved a direct, frontal assault on the ammunition depot, which would require careful coordination and precise timing to minimize the risks. The Sentinels would advance under the cover of smoke grenades, attempting to obscure their movements from the automated turrets and Zetorian soldiers. Kazuki suggested that they initiate the assault at dusk, when the limited visibility would make it more difficult for the enemy to spot their approach. To increase their odds of success, the Sentinels discussed creating a diversion by setting off remote explosives on the opposite side of the depot, drawing the attention of the Zetorian forces away from their main attack. The squad would then split into 2 teams. Team Alpha, led by Sophia, would be responsible for providing cover fire and suppressing the enemy. Their primary objective would be to keep the Zetorian soldiers' attention focused on their position, while Team Bravo, led by Hana, infiltrated the depot to disable the turrets and eliminate any remaining opposition. Team Bravo would move under the cover of the smoke, utilizing the chaos created by Team Alpha's suppressive fire to slip past the enemy lines undetected. Sarah raised concerns about the possibility of encountering reinforced barriers or fortified positions within the depot, which could hinder their progress and leave them vulnerable to counterattacks. To address this issue, the squad considered having Gabriella on standby with her engineering tools, ready to breach any obstacles they might encounter quickly. However, several objections were raised during the discussion. Kazuki's injured leg would slow him down, making it difficult for him to keep up with the Sentinels and putting him at greater risk. Additionally, given the damage some of the Sentinels had sustained in the crash, they were concerned about their ability to withstand a prolonged firefight. The potential for a high casualty rate was deemed too great, leading them to consider alternative strategies. Plan B: Stealth Infiltration. The second plan focused on a stealthier approach, minimizing the risk of a direct confrontation with the Zetorian forces and automated turrets. The squad would use the cover of darkness and the dense foliage of the jungle to make their way to the depot undetected, avoiding the enemy's patrol routes and the motion sensors that Hana had identified during her reconnaissance. To ensure their movements were as quiet as possible, the Sentinels would use specialized equipment designed for stealth operations, such as sound-dampening boots and camouflage clothing that blended seamlessly with the jungle environment. Kazuki, despite his injured leg, would be supported by Gabriella, who would assist him in moving silently and efficiently through the rough terrain. Once they had reached the depot, the squad would split into two teams. Team Alpha, consisting of Sophia and Sarah, would be responsible for disabling the external surveillance cameras and the automated turrets. They would employ electronic jamming devices to temporarily disable the cameras and use their advanced combat skills to dismantle the turrets without alerting the Zetorian soldiers inside the depot. Meanwhile, Team Bravo, led by Hana and accompanied by Kazuki and Gabriella, would infiltrate the depot through a rear entrance that Hana had spotted during her scouting. They would move cautiously, taking out any Zetorian guards they encountered with silenced weapons to avoid raising the alarm. Once inside, their primary objective would be to locate and destroy the source of the communication jamming, allowing them to call for extraction and report their findings. The squad debated the merits of this plan, acknowledging that it would minimize the risk of casualties and maximize the element of surprise. However, they also recognized that if any part of their stealthy approach failed, they could quickly become overwhelmed by the enemy forces. The success of this plan relied heavily on their ability to remain undetected and execute their tasks flawlessly. Plan C: Diversion and Infiltration. The third plan discussed by the squad involved creating a diversion to draw the Zetorian forces away from the depot, allowing the team to infiltrate the facility with less resistance. This plan hinged on the Sentinels' ability to create a convincing distraction that would occupy the majority of the enemy troops without putting the team at unnecessary risk. To execute this plan, the squad would split into two groups. Group 1, consisting of Sarah and Sophia, would be responsible for creating the diversion. They would set up a series of small, controlled explosions at a safe distance from the depot. These explosions, combined with the use of holographic projectors to simulate an attack by a larger force, would ideally lure the Zetorian soldiers out of their fortified position to investigate and engage the perceived threat. Group 2, led by Hana and including Kazuki and Gabriella, would use the confusion caused by the diversion to infiltrate the depot from the opposite side. They would still need to move cautiously, avoiding any remaining guards, motion sensors, and surveillance equipment. But the reduced number of enemy forces inside the depot would make their task considerably less daunting. Once inside, their primary objective would be the same as in Plan B: locate and destroy the source of the communication jamming. After completing their mission, they would rendezvous with Group 1 at a predetermined extraction point and call for pickup. The squad weighed the pros and cons of Plan C, acknowledging that a successful diversion could significantly reduce the risk of a direct confrontation with the Zetorian forces. However, they also recognized the potential for the diversion to fail, leaving them exposed and outnumbered. Additionally, executing a successful diversion would require precise timing and coordination between the two groups, adding another layer of complexity to the mission. With the 3 plans laid out and discussed in detail, the squad turned to Kazuki for his final decision. Kazuki was acutely aware that the lives of his squad members were in his hands. The weight of this responsibility pressed down on him, a constant reminder that every decision he made could mean life or death for his team. As he carefully considered the 3 plans, he found himself battling with an inner turmoil, torn between risking the lives of some squad members over others, and the need to accomplish their mission. It was a struggle that gnawed at him, the knowledge that he couldn't keep everyone safe at all times. He desperately wanted to find a way to protect each of his team members, but he knew that was an unrealistic expectation. As their commander, he had to make difficult decisions, and sometimes those decisions would involve putting some of his people in harm's way for the greater good. He studied the faces of his squad, recognizing the unwavering determination and trust they had in him. They were ready to follow his orders, no matter the risk, and it was this dedication that fueled Kazuki's resolve to make the best decision possible. It was a heavy burden, but one that he knew he must bear in order to lead his team effectively. Kazuki took a deep breath and made his decision. He chose Plan C, diversion and infiltration, believing it offered the best balance between risk and reward for his squad. While the diversion group would undoubtedly be exposed to danger as they attracted the attention of the enemy, Kazuki trusted in their exceptional skills, abilities, and resourcefulness to manage the situation and minimize the risks. On the other hand, he acknowledged that the infiltration group would face a unique set of challenges as they covertly entered the ammunition depot. Kazuki was determined to lead this group personally, sharing the risks with his team and facing the obstacles head-on. He knew that navigating the heavily guarded and patrolled depot would test their stealth, adaptability, and teamwork, but he had faith in their collective capabilities. Kazuki's decision, made after careful consideration of the pros and cons of each plan, was not taken lightly. He understood the implications of his choice and the potential consequences it could have on his squad. As their commander, he accepted the responsibility for their safety and the success of their mission. With Plan C in place, Kazuki hoped that they would be one step closer to achieving their objective, overcoming the challenges that lay ahead, and ultimately proving their worth as an elite team. As the squad began to prepare for the execution of Plan C, Kazuki could see the determination and focus in their eyes. They were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them and put their trust in their commander's decision. This unspoken bond between them further strengthened their resolve and commitment to the mission's success. With the decision made, Kazuki gathered his squad to assign roles and discuss the specifics of Plan C. He knew that meticulous planning and attention to detail would be crucial to their success. He addressed the team, his voice steady and confident, despite the weight of responsibility he carried. "Sophia, I want you to lead the diversion group," he began. "You'll be accompanied by Sarah and Gabriella. Sarah, your strength and durability will be invaluable in drawing enemy fire and keeping the opposition occupied. Gabriella, your medical expertise will ensure that any injuries sustained by the group are treated swiftly, maximizing the chances of a successful diversion." The 3 Sentinels nodded in agreement, accepting their assignments without hesitation. Kazuki could see the determination in their eyes, as well as their unwavering trust in his leadership. Meanwhile, Kazuki continued, "Hana, you'll be with me in the infiltration group. Your stealth and sharpshooting skills will be crucial for our covert entry and neutralization of any immediate threats. Our main objective will be to disable the depot's defenses and communication systems, creating an opening for the diversion group to join us and complete the mission." Hana nodded, her focus and resolve evident as she mentally prepared for the task ahead. Kazuki could tell that she was eager to put her skills to the test, and he knew that she would be a valuable asset to their operation. Before embarking on their mission, the squad took a moment to review their equipment and ensure they were prepared for any challenges they might face. Sophia and Sarah checked their weapons and armor, ensuring that they were in optimal condition for the upcoming skirmish. Gabriella stocked her medical kit with the necessary supplies to treat both Sentinels and their human commander, while Hana meticulously cleaned and calibrated her sniper rifle, ensuring pinpoint accuracy when it mattered most. Kazuki, despite his injury, took the time to familiarize himself with the layout of the ammunition depot, committing every detail to memory. He knew that a thorough understanding of the terrain would be essential for navigating the area and evading enemy patrols. As the squad completed their preparations, Kazuki could sense the anticipation and tension in the air. They all understood the risks involved and the importance of their mission. But they were also united in their determination to see it through and prove their worth as an elite team. With a final nod to each other, the Starborn Sentinels set out on their daring operation, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Under the cover of darkness, the two groups split up to execute their respective parts of Plan C. The moonlit jungle provided just enough light to navigate the dense foliage, casting an eerie glow on the path ahead. Despite the added challenge of Kazuki's injured leg, he and Hana moved with surprising agility and grace, ensuring their footsteps made no sound as they edged closer to the ammunition depot. The diversion group, led by Sophia, advanced cautiously toward the front of the depot, taking care to avoid the surveillance cameras and motion sensors that Hana had identified earlier. Each sentinel moved with the precision and fluidity of a seasoned warrior, their heightened senses and years of combat training guiding them through the treacherous terrain. As they approached their designated position, Sophia signaled for Sarah and Gabriella to prepare for the diversion. Sarah, her powerful frame hidden behind a makeshift barricade of fallen logs and dense vegetation, primed her weapon and waited for Sophia's signal. Gabriella, positioned a safe distance away, set up a makeshift triage area, anticipating the potential injuries that might arise during the diversion. Her eyes darted between her medical supplies and her teammates, mentally cataloging the resources at her disposal and formulating plans for various injury scenarios. Back with the infiltration group, Hana had found an ideal vantage point in the high branches of a massive tree overlooking the depot. She secured herself in position, her sniper rifle at the ready as she surveyed the scene below. Her keen eyes scanned for any potential threats, as well as any opportunities that might present themselves for Kazuki and her to slip inside unnoticed. Kazuki, meanwhile, used the detailed mental map he had created earlier to guide them around the perimeter of the depot, avoiding the well-trodden paths of the Zetorian patrols. He kept a close eye on Hana's progress in the treetops, ready to signal her if they encountered any unexpected obstacles or dangers. As they neared the rear entrance, Kazuki's heart raced, not from fear, but from the adrenaline and anticipation of the impending operation. With both groups in position, Kazuki gave the signal to initiate the diversion. Sophia nodded to Sarah, who unleashed a barrage of controlled, yet powerful, gunfire toward the depot's front entrance. The sudden noise and chaos caught the attention of the Zetorian guards, who scrambled to respond to the perceived threat. As the diversion group drew the enemy's focus, Kazuki and Hana used the opportunity to slip through the rear entrance, their movements swift and silent. The infiltration had begun, and the stakes had never been higher. As Kazuki and Hana infiltrated the depot, they kept in constant communication with the diversion group through their earpiece comms. Kazuki's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of adrenaline and concern for his team fueling his every step. Each footfall was carefully placed, the weight of his injured leg threatening to slow him down, but his determination propelled him forward. The interior of the depot was dimly lit, the narrow, maze-like corridors lined with stacks of ammunition crates and weaponry. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and metal, making each breath feel heavy in their lungs. Hana, her senses even more heightened than usual, led the way, her body moving gracefully and silently through the shadows. Outside, the diversion group continued their calculated assault, the sounds of gunfire and explosions echoing through the jungle. Sarah's powerful shots were interspersed with the more precise, targeted attacks of Sophia, who focused on taking out key targets such as surveillance equipment and exterior defenses. Gabriella, still at her makeshift triage station, kept a watchful eye on her teammates, her hands steady and ready to administer medical aid if needed. Back inside the depot, Hana and Kazuki encountered their first obstacle, a locked security door. Kazuki carefully examined the door, his fingers tracing the contours of the high-tech locking mechanism. Time was of the essence, but haste could lead to detection. Kazuki's mind raced, evaluating possible bypass methods and recalling his training in electronic security systems. As Kazuki worked on the lock, Hana stood guard, her rifle aimed down the corridor, her senses on high alert. A bead of sweat rolled down her forehead, but her focus never wavered. Every muscle in her body was tensed, ready to spring into action at the slightest sign of danger. In what felt like an eternity, but was in reality only a few tense minutes, Kazuki successfully bypassed the security lock. The door clicked open, revealing the dimly lit hallway beyond. The pair exchanged a silent nod, acknowledging the small victory, and continued onward, ever deeper into the heart of the depot. As they progressed, they encountered several more locked doors and security measures, each one more complex than the last. Kazuki's skills and resourcefulness were put to the test, but he remained steadfast, drawing upon his years of experience and training to guide him through each challenge. Outside, the diversion group's continued assault had drawn a significant portion of the Zatorian forces away from the depot, allowing Kazuki and Hana to proceed with minimal interference. However, the longer the diversion persisted, the more dangerous the situation became for Sophia, Sarah, and Gabriella. Kazuki and Hana, keenly aware of the wounded Sentinels' limitations, pushed themselves to move as quickly as possible. Kazuki's injured leg ached with every step, but he gritted his teeth and pressed on, refusing to let his pain slow them down. Hana, though her injuries were more severe, moved with an almost supernatural grace, compensating for her damaged body with her enhanced agility and reflexes. Outside, the diversion group was feeling the strain of their sustained assault. Sophia's movements were hindered by her injuries, forcing her to rely more on her instincts and skill to take out key targets. Sarah, despite her own wounds, continued to unleash her powerful shots, though she could feel the stress on her already damaged body. Gabriella, her hands trembling from the adrenaline coursing through her veins, remained vigilant, ready to provide medical aid at a moment's notice. As Kazuki and Hana reached the final security door, they knew they were close to their objective. Kazuki's hands worked with expert precision, deftly manipulating the complex locking mechanism. Hana, her rifle trained on the corridor behind them, scanned their surroundings, her enhanced senses detecting the faintest of sounds and movements. With a soft click, the final security door swung open, revealing the heart of the ammunition depot. Rows upon rows of high-tech weaponry and ammunition filled the room, a veritable treasure trove of military hardware. Kazuki and Hana exchanged a determined glance before proceeding, knowing that their mission was not yet complete. Outside, the diversion group was starting to feel the pressure of the relentless Zatorian counterattack. Sophia, her injuries beginning to take their toll, fought to maintain her accuracy as she took out one target after another. Sarah, her body pushed to its limits, continued to provide heavy fire support, though she knew that she was dangerously close to overextending herself. Gabriella, sensing the escalating danger, mentally prepared herself for the possibility that she may need to provide emergency medical aid to her teammates. Back inside the depot, Kazuki and Hana located the central control panel for the facility's security and communication systems. Working together, they quickly set about disabling the systems, cutting off the depot's link to the rest of the Zetorian forces. As the last of the systems went offline, they breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that they had achieved a major part of their mission. But there was still more to be done, and time was running out for their teammates outside. Kazuki and Hana knew they needed to act fast to disable the depot's weapons systems, as their teammates outside were struggling to maintain their diversion. The strain of the battle was evident on both Sophia and Sarah, as their injuries limited their combat efficiency. Sophia's damaged leg made it difficult for her to move swiftly, forcing her to rely on her honed instincts and quick reflexes to anticipate enemy movements. She had to use the environment to her advantage, finding cover and adapting her firing positions to compensate for her reduced mobility. Sarah, on the other hand, experienced pain in her damaged arm with every shot she took, but her determination to protect her teammates kept her going. She focused on her breathing and controlled her heartbeat to maintain her aim, despite the agony that coursed through her body. She consciously shifted her body weight to her non-damaged arm for support, minimizing the impact on her injured limb. Gabriella, her hands slick with sweat from the tension, stayed close to her teammates, ready to provide medical assistance at a moment's notice. Her medical training kicked in, and she mentally prioritized the treatment order in case multiple injuries occurred simultaneously. She silently prayed that she wouldn't have to put her skills to the test, but she remained prepared for the worst. Inside the depot, Kazuki's injured leg throbbed with pain, but he forced himself to ignore it as he and Hana worked to disable the weapons systems. He leaned more heavily on his good leg, redistributing his weight to lessen the strain on the injured limb. He also relied on Hana for support, both physically and mentally, as they worked together to complete their task. Hana's own injuries presented a unique set of challenges, as her damaged arm affected her ability to hold her rifle steadily. She compensated by adapting her grip and using her enhanced strength in her other arm to provide additional stability. Her keen senses remained sharp, helping her detect any potential threats as they worked. With the weapons systems disabled, Kazuki and Hana knew they needed to regroup with the rest of the team. They were aware that the longer the diversion continued, the greater the risk of serious injury or even death for their teammates. The weight of their responsibility hung heavy on their shoulders, but they were determined to see the mission through to the end. As Kazuki and Hana made their way back towards the rest of the team, they moved cautiously through the depot, mindful of any remaining Zetorian soldiers who might still be present. They maintained communication with Sophia, Sarah, and Gabriella, updating them on their progress and receiving information about the situation outside. The diversion had taken its toll on the Sentinels. Sophia's energy levels were dropping, her damaged leg hindering her ability to evade enemy fire. She managed to find a makeshift barricade, using it as cover and forcing herself to fight through the pain. Sarah's damaged arm trembled with each shot, the pain intensifying. Despite this, her focus remained unshaken, and she continued to provide covering fire for Sophia and Gabriella. Gabriella's nerves were frayed, but she stayed vigilant, assessing the state of her teammates and preparing herself for any emergency. She watched their backs, scanning the area for any sign of approaching Zetorian reinforcements. Kazuki and Hana finally reached the outer perimeter of the depot, their hearts pounding from the adrenaline and the weight of their responsibility. They knew that their team needed them now more than ever. As they approached their teammates' position, Hana climbed into a vantage point within the trees, her enhanced agility and strength compensating for her injuries. With Hana providing overwatch, Kazuki rejoined Sophia, Sarah, and Gabriella on the ground. He could see the strain on their faces and the toll their injuries had taken on their performance. He felt a renewed determination to get them all to safety. "Team, we've disabled the weapons systems. It's time to fall back and regroup at the extraction point," Kazuki ordered, his voice steady despite the pain in his leg. The Sentinels nodded in agreement, knowing that their mission was not yet over. As they began their retreat, they moved as a cohesive unit, covering each other's backs and compensating for their injuries. Their bond had been tested, but it had only grown stronger, and they were more determined than ever to see this mission through to the end. The team moved through the dense jungle, their pace slow and deliberate to accommodate their injuries. Kazuki limped alongside the Sentinels, his leg aching with every step. He knew they needed to reach the extraction point quickly, but he also understood the importance of not leaving anyone behind. As they made their way to the rendezvous point, the jungle was eerily quiet, the Zatorian forces seemingly disappearing from the area. The team remained on high alert, constantly scanning the environment for any signs of an ambush. Despite their injuries, the Sentinels were determined to protect their commander at all costs. Hana continued to provide overwatch from the trees above, her keen eyes surveying the area and reporting any potential threats. Sarah and Sophia took turns providing rear guard, their weapons at the ready. Gabriella, meanwhile, continued to assess the condition of her teammates, prioritizing their safety over her own. After several hours of painstakingly slow progress, the extraction point finally came into view. A sense of relief washed over the team, but they knew better than to let their guard down. They approached the designated landing zone with caution, ensuring that it was secure before signaling for extraction. Within minutes, a stealth transport ship arrived, its engines barely audible above the sounds of the jungle. The hatch opened, and the pilot, a fellow human soldier, waved them inside. "Great job, team. Let's get you out of here," the pilot said, helping the wounded Sentinels and Kazuki on board. As the transport ship lifted off the ground and soared through the night sky, the team looked back at the jungle below. Their mission had been a success, but not without sacrifice. They had faced the enemy, protected their commander, and forged a bond that would only grow stronger in the battles to come. As the transport ship cruised toward their home base, Kazuki and the Sentinels took the time to regroup and assess the events of their mission. The small cabin was a cacophony of beeping medical equipment and the low hum of the engines, yet it provided a sense of safety and respite from the dangers they had just faced. Kazuki examined the extent of his team's injuries. Sophia's arm had been badly burned, and Sarah had sustained damage to her internal systems, causing her to move more slowly and with a slight limp. Gabriella worked tirelessly, tending to her fellow Sentinels, administering pain relief, and ensuring that their vital systems were stable. Kazuki couldn't help but feel responsible for the damage his team had sustained, but he also knew that they had succeeded in their mission because of their unwavering commitment to each other. The bond they had formed in the face of adversity had made them stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the transport ship approached their home base, Kazuki and the Sentinels began discussing their plans for the future. They knew that they would need time to recover, both physically and mentally, from their ordeal. However, they also recognized that they were a part of something much larger than themselves, A fight for the survival of humanity against an enemy that would stop at nothing to see them eradicated. "We'll rest, regroup, and come back stronger," Kazuki said with determination, his eyes meeting those of his squad. "We're a team, and we'll face whatever the future holds, together." The Sentinels nodded in agreement, their expressions a mix of determination and gratitude. They knew that they had found a commander they could trust, someone who would stand by them through the toughest of battles and the darkest of times. As the transport ship touched down on the landing pad, the team braced themselves for the next phase of their journey. Though they had endured pain and loss, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by their shared experiences and an unbreakable bond that would carry them through the war to come.